The sirens hadn't arrived yet. The crowd stood frozen on the other side of the street, filming, whispering, praying someone else would step in. But Lily didn't think. She just moved. Her worn sneakers slapped against the asphalt as sparks rained down like angry stars. Heat scorched her face, smoke filled her lungs, but she pushed through. Inside the car, through cracked glass, a boy barely conscious leaned against the steering wheel, blood trailing from his forehead. "Hold on!" she screamed, her voice breaking. She yanked at the handle, locked. With trembling fingers, she grabbed a rock and shattered the window. Fire hissed in response, biting at her arms as she reached in. She could barely lift him. He was taller, heavier, but adrenaline lent her strength. She dragged him, inch by inch, until they both collapsed on the sidewalk, gasping. Moments later, the car exploded behind them, showering glass across the pavement. The force knocked her forward, shielding the boy with her small frame as debris rained around them. People finally ran over, shouting, calling emergency numbers, helping her roll him onto his back. His pulse was weak, but there, she coughed, eyes red from smoke, and whispered, "You're safe now, you're safe." When the ambulance arrived, paramedics loaded the boy first. One of them turned to Lily, asking if she was family. She shook her head, just someone who couldn't walk away. They urged her to get checked too, but she refused. "I'm fine," she said softly, even as blood trickled from a cut on her cheek. She vanished into the night before anyone could ask her name. Hours later, in a quiet hospital hallway, chaos erupted again, this time not from flames, but from fear. A man in an immaculate suit stormed in, flanked by security guards and doctors. His name was Michael Ward, one of the city's wealthiest businessmen, a billionaire known for his empire, not his empathy. The injured boy was his only son, Ethan. Who found him? Who helped him? Michael demanded. The nurse hesitated. "We don't know, sir." Witnesses said a young woman pulled him out before the explosion, but she disappeared. Michael's jaw clenched. He dismissed everyone and walked into the room where Ethan lay, hooked up to tubes and monitors. His son's face, pale and bruised, looked fragile, human, for the first time in years. Guilt gnawed at him. He'd been too busy chasing deals to answer his son's calls, too proud to apologize for their last argument that morning. He sank into the chair beside the bed. "Hang on, son," he whispered. "Whoever she was, I'll find her. I owe her everything." The next morning, every news outlet ran the story. Mystery girl saves billionaire's son from fire. Social media flooded with blurry videos of a girl running through flames. Hashtags like #FireAngel and #RealHero trended overnight. But Lily didn't see any of it. She sat on the steps of the homeless shelter where she'd been staying, her hands bandaged, staring into nothing. The manager, Grace, an older woman with kind eyes, placed a cup of tea beside her. "You did something brave. Sweetheart," she said. Lily smiled faintly. "I just couldn't watch him die." Grace nodded. "And yet, half the city did." Lily's throat tightened. "Do you think people only help when someone's watching?" Grace sighed. "Some do. But the ones who help quietly, they're the ones who still keep the world spinning." Outside, rain began to fall, washing soot from the streets, but not from Lily's soul. She didn't know her small act had set something much larger in motion, something that would test not only her heart but the meaning of kindness itself. Days passed, but Michael couldn't focus on anything except the grainy footage looping in his head. A blur of fire, a shadowy figure dragging his son to safety. Every network replayed the same scene, yet none could identify the girl. Her face was half hidden, hair matted with soot, clothes torn. The media called her the unknown angel. Michael had ordered his security team to trace every witness, every hospital record, every shelter near the crash site. He didn't know why he cared so deeply. Guilt, gratitude, maybe both. But he couldn't rest until he found her. Meanwhile, Lily continued her quiet routine at the shelter. She helped serve breakfast, folded blankets, and read old library books by the window. The burns on her arms still hurt, but she hid them under long sleeves. Whenever she passed a mirror, she barely recognized the girl staring back. Tired eyes, but somehow light inside. Grace noticed it too. "You've been smiling more," she said one morning, handing Lily a clean apron. Lily shrugged. Maybe saving someone gave me purpose again. Grace smiled. Funny thing about kindness, it heals both the saved and the savior. That afternoon, Michael visited the police station personally. Frustration etched into his expression. "You're telling me no one saw her leave?" he asked. "People said she just walked off," replied the officer. "Didn't ask for thanks, didn't even give her name." Michael leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "The world doesn't make people like that anymore," he muttered. The officer gave a faint smile. "Maybe it still does, sir. You just haven't been looking in the right places." That line stuck with him. The right places. So he began visiting them. The shelters, the soup kitchens, the forgotten corners of the city. At first, the staff were cautious. A billionaire showing up in designer shoes asking about a mystery girl didn't make sense. But when he quietly started donating supplies, funding repairs, and listening, truly listening, walls began to fall. Back at the shelter, Grace noticed new boxes of food and fresh blankets arriving unexpectedly. An anonymous donor, the delivery man said with a smile. Lily helped carry them inside, unaware of who had sent them. That evening, as the rain poured down again, Lily stepped outside to breathe. The city smelled like wet concrete and hope. She looked across the street and saw a man sitting alone in his car, engine idling, watching the shelter. She couldn't see his face, but something in his posture felt heavy, like someone searching for something he'd lost long ago. Inside that car sat Michael. He had found the right place. He just didn't yet realize the girl standing in the doorway was the one he'd been chasing through headlines and sleepless nights. He stepped out, holding an umbrella. As he crossed the street, a truck roared by, splashing water across his coat. Lily rushed forward instinctively. "Sir, you're drenched. Here." She pulled him under the shelter awning. Michael looked at her, really looked, and time slowed. Her hair still carried faint traces of smoke, and her eyes had that same fire he'd seen in the footage. His throat tightened. You're the one, aren't you?" Lily blinked. "The one." "The girl from the fire," he whispered. Her lips parted, but no words came. She simply looked away, uncomfortable with the attention. "Please, don't make a big deal out of it. I just did what anyone would." Michael's voice cracked. No one else did. For a moment, neither spoke. Rain drummed against the metal roof, soft and rhythmic. "I don't need anything," Lily said finally. "Just make sure your son's okay. That's all that matters." Michael's eyes glistened. "Is alive because of you. I don't even know your name." "Lily." "Lily." He repeated it like it was a prayer. "You saved my son. Let me at least help you." She shook her head. "You can't help what's already lost." Before he could respond, Grace appeared at the doorway, sensing the tension. "Lily, everything all right?" Lily smiled faintly. "Yes, Grace. Just someone thanking me." Michael watched her walk back inside, the rain catching in her hair like falling stars. Something in him cracked open, the part that once believed money could fix everything. That night, back at his penthouse, he stared out over the glittering skyline. His reflection in the glass looked hollow. "Maybe she's the one who's rich," he murmured. Down in the shelter, Lily whispered a quiet prayer before bed, not for herself, but for the boy she saved. She didn't know it, but her story with Michael and Ethan was only beginning. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes, and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. Michael didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lily's face, calm, selfless, worn by struggle yet unshaken. He had met thousands of people in his life, investors, executives, politicians, but none had looked at him the way she did, without awe, without expectation, without fear, just quiet sincerity. By morning, he made a decision. He would help her whether she wanted it or not, but not with pity. He wanted to understand what kind of heart could still run into fire for a stranger. He called his assistant. "Find everything about the girl named Lily from the shelter on Brook Street. No invasion, no press. Just background. I need to know her story." Within hours, the report arrived. It wasn't long. Just a few pages that broke him more than any deal ever could. Lily had aged out of the foster system at 18. Her mother had died of illness when she was 10. Her father disappeared soon after. She'd worked odd jobs, sometimes slept on buses, sometimes skipped meals. And yet, there were records, volunteer logs, community work, notes from people she'd helped. She had nothing, but she kept giving. Michael sat back, the pages trembling in his hands. "How does someone lose so much and still have more to give?" he whispered. At that moment, Ethan stirred in his hospital bed for the first time in days. His voice cracked. "Dad?" Michael rushed to his side. "I'm here, son. I'm here." Ethan blinked weakly, confusion clouding his expression. "The girl, did she make it?" Michael froze. "You remember her?" "She pulled me out," Ethan said, eyes watering. "I remember her voice. She told me I was safe. She saved my life." Michael took his hand. "She's okay, son. She's out there, and I promise you, we'll thank her properly." Ethan nodded faintly. "Then promise me something else. Don't just thank her. See her." Michael frowned. "What do you mean?" "People like her. They don't need gifts or news stories. They just need someone to really see them." Those words echoed like truth cutting through marble. And for the first time, Michael realized how blind he'd been, not just to Lily, but to the entire world beyond his glass towers and boardrooms. That evening, he returned to the shelter, not in a car surrounded by guards, but walking alone. Grace met him at the door. "Back again, Mr. Ward?" she asked, her eyes cautious. "I'd like to see Lily," he said. "Just to talk." Grace hesitated, then nodded toward the back garden. "She's out there, but if you're here to offer her money, don't waste her time. That girl's soul runs on something richer than gold." He smiled sadly. "That's exactly why I'm here." Lily sat on a wooden bench beneath a dim streetlight, sketching in a small notebook. Her drawings were rough: faces, trees, a boy in a car surrounded by fire. "Those are beautiful," Michael said softly as he approached. She startled slightly but didn't hide the notebook. "They are just memories." "Memories are priceless," he said, sitting beside her. "I read about you. I hope that's not intrusive." Lily looked away. "People always read about the poor, but they never really know them." "I want to change that," he said gently. "Not just for you, for people like you." She studied him, her eyes cautious. "Why?" He hesitated. "Because my son almost died before I realized how empty I was living. You reminded me what life's worth is measured by." For a moment, silence stretched between them, the kind that feels more honest than words. Then Lily asked quietly, "And what will you do with that realization, Mr. Ward?" Michael smiled faintly. "You'll see." The following week, the city awoke to a surprise headline. Billionaire Michael Ward opens new foundation for unsung heroes. But behind the press release was something deeper, something personal. Michael had quietly asked Grace if the shelter would allow him to fund a community initiative under Lily's name. She resisted at first, fearing it would embarrass the girl, but when he explained that it would help hundreds like her, those who helped others without expecting anything, she agreed. When Lily heard the news, she was stunned. "My name? Why mine?" Michael replied, "Because you represent what the world forgets, that real wealth lives in ordinary hearts." Still, she was uneasy. "You don't need to make me into some symbol. I'm not special." Michael's voice softened. "You're wrong. You're the reason my son still breathes. And sometimes the world needs to be reminded that heroes don't wear suits." Ethan, now walking again with a cast on his arm, visited the shelter that day with his father. When he saw Lily for the first time since the accident, his eyes welled up. "You're real," he whispered, half laughing, half crying. Lily smiled nervously. "I was starting to wonder that myself." He reached for her hand. "You saved me. I don't know how to thank you." "Live better," she said softly. "That's all I want." They talked for hours about school, family, regret, second chances. Ethan confessed he'd been driving that night out of anger after a fight with his father. "If you hadn't pulled me out," he said, voice breaking. I wouldn't be here. Lily squeezed his hand gently. Then maybe that fire wasn't meant to destroy. Maybe it was meant to change something. Michael watched them, something fragile flickering behind his stoic gaze. He hadn't realized how long it had been since he'd seen his son smile. Over the next few days, Michael kept returning to the shelter, not as a billionaire, but as a volunteer. He swept floors, served soup, carried boxes. At first, everyone thought it was some publicity stunt, but soon they saw the truth. He wasn't doing it for cameras. He was doing it for redemption. Grace teased him once, saying, "You clean better than you invest, Mr. Ward." He laughed. Maybe I should have started here instead of Wall Street. Even Lily couldn't help but smile at that. She began to see beyond the man in the headlines, a father learning how to be human again. One night, as they stood outside locking up, Michael looked at her and said, "You know, I spent my whole life building towers to feel tall. But you stood in fire and never needed one." Lily didn't know what to say. Her eyes shimmered under the dim light. Maybe you just needed to stand closer to the ground. That line struck him harder than any deal gone wrong ever could. He nodded slowly. "You're right. The view's clearer here." Just then, Grace opened the door, calling them in before the rain started again. As Lily turned to go, Michael stayed behind for a moment, watching her silhouette fade into the shelter's warm glow. It reminded him of that night, light emerging from chaos. The next morning, he made another quiet decision, not to repay her, because that was impossible, but to give her the chance she'd never had. He called a meeting at his firm and announced a scholarship fund, the Lily Grant Program, aimed at helping underprivileged youth rebuild their lives through education and community work. When reporters asked about the name, he simply said, "Because one girl taught me that sometimes the poorest hearts hold the richest lessons." For a while, everything felt lighter, as if life had finally decided to give Lily a small patch of peace. The shelter buzzed with joy. Reporters wanted to meet the girl behind the name, though Michael made sure her privacy was protected. Ethan visited often, sometimes bringing books or lunch, sometimes just sitting quietly beside her as she sketched. But peace is fragile, and Lily's past had a way of finding her. One afternoon, a stranger appeared at the shelter. He was thin, unshaven, and smelled faintly of alcohol. His eyes widened when he saw Lily serving food to the children. "Lily," he rasped. The plate almost slipped from her hands. That voice, low, gravelly, trembling, she hadn't heard it in 10 years. "Dad!" The room fell silent. Grace glanced over from across the hall, sensing the tension. Lily froze, torn between shock and heartbreak. Her father took a hesitant step forward. "I saw you on the news. They said you saved someone. My girl, saving a billionaire's son." His smile wavered, unsure whether pride or guilt should lead. Lily swallowed hard. "You left me. You walked out after Mom died." "I was broken," he whispered. "Didn't know how to be a father anymore." Her voice cracked. "So you just stopped trying?" Grace gently intervened, guiding them to a quiet room in the back. Ethan, who had come to help that day, stood near the doorway, watching in silence, unsure if he should stay. Lily's father sat down, his hands shaking. "I came here to say I'm sorry. I've been clean for a year now. I want to start over." Lily's eyes filled, but her jaw stayed firm. "You can't erase years with one apology." "I know," he said softly, "but maybe I can earn back a few minutes at a time." The pain in her chest was heavy, not anger anymore, just sorrow too deep for words. "You don't know what it's like to grow up thinking you weren't worth staying for." He lowered his head. "Maybe I didn't then, but I do now." For the first time, Ethan stepped in, placing a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "You don't have to forgive him today," he said quietly. "But maybe saving me wasn't just about me. Maybe it was about saving the part of you that still want to believe in people." Lily looked at him, her expression torn between disbelief and understanding. "You think I should forgive him?" Ethan nodded slowly. "I think you already want to." She turned back to her father, her breath trembling. "I don't know if I can, but I don't want to hate you anymore." Her father's eyes brimmed with tears. "That's enough for me." When Michael arrived later that evening, Grace told him what had happened. He found Lily sitting outside again, her sketchbook on her lap, raindrops dotting the paper. He didn't speak at first, just sat beside her, watching the gray clouds break apart. "You okay?" he asked finally. She exhaled, long and heavy. "No, but maybe that's part of healing." Michael nodded. "Sometimes the hardest rescue is the one inside ourselves." Lily smiled faintly. "You're starting to sound like Grace." "Maybe she's rubbing off on me," he chuckled. They sat in silence for a while. The world seemed quieter after pain speaks its truth. Inside, Ethan talked softly with Lily's father, offering him food, listening without judgment. Michael watched through the window, pride swelling in his chest. His son, once reckless, selfish, wounded, was now showing the same compassion that had once saved him. And in that moment, Michael understood. Lily hadn't just saved his son from fire. She had ignited something in all of them, the courage to face their own. Be honest. Could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply. That night, the rain softened into a drizzle, leaving the city washed clean, like a world trying to start over. Lily sat near the shelter window, watching reflections ripple in puddles. The sound of laughter drifted from the hallway, where Ethan was helping serve dinner. Her father, for the first time in years, was quietly eating with the others, eyes lowered but peaceful. Grace placed a hand on Lily's shoulder. "You did a brave thing today," she said. Lily shook her head. "It didn't feel brave. It just hurt." Grace smiled gently. Real bravery always does. Later, Ethan joined her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one and sat beside her. "You know," he said softly, "when I was trapped in that car, I thought there was a fire meant to end my story. But maybe it was the one meant to start yours." Lily looked at him, startled by the warmth in his tone. "My story?" "Yeah," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "The one where you stop saving everyone else and finally let someone save you." She laughed under her breath. "And who's going to do that?" Ethan sipped his coffee. "Maybe someone who owes you his life." They shared a long, quiet look. There was no romantic music swelling, no movie-perfect moment, just the honesty of 2 people who had both walked through flames and survived. Over the next few weeks, life took on a fragile rhythm. Lily began helping Michael's new foundation, working on outreach programs for shelters across the city. She refused a salary at first, saying she didn't deserve it, until Michael insisted. "You've already earned more than anyone I've ever met," he said with a fatherly smile. Meanwhile, her father kept showing up, sweeping floors, serving meals, keeping promises one day at a time. Lily watched him cautiously but with hope. Trust wasn't rebuilt overnight, but maybe brick by brick, it could be. Ethan started filming short clips for the Foundation social pages, real stories of people helping others, inspired by Lily's rescue. In one of them, he asked her to speak. She hesitated. "I'm not good at cameras." "You're not supposed to be," he said. "You're supposed to be real." The video went viral overnight. Millions watched as Lily, eyes humble and sincere, said, "Sometimes being poor isn't about money. It's about forgetting you matter. If you're watching this, please remember, you still do." The comments overflowed with gratitude. People shared their own struggles, their own moments of kindness. One message read, "I was about to give up today. Then I saw this." When Ethan showed her the reactions, Lily's hands covered her mouth. "I didn't mean to." To change lives. Ethan grinned. Too late. Michael watched from his office that night, tears glinting against the city lights. His company's logo no longer filled him with pride. Her words did. For once, it wasn't profit or publicity that defined him. It was purpose. A few days later, Lily was invited to speak at a charity gala hosted by the foundation. She wore a simple blue dress Grace had saved for her, nothing fancy, but when she walked onto that stage, the room fell silent. Cameras flashed. Michael and Ethan stood at the front table, pride written across their faces. Lily took a deep breath, her voice trembling but clear. "I used to think I was invisible," she began. "But the night of that fire, I realized something. Even small lives can create big sparks. I didn't save a boy because I wanted attention. I saved him because I couldn't bear to see another light go out." The audience was still. listening, not to a speech, but to truth. She continued, and if you ever feel like your kindness doesn't matter, remember this. Someone out there is breathing because of it. Tears shimmered in more eyes than she could count. If you believe love still wins, comment, Amen. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. When the applause finally faded that night, Lily stepped off the stage with shaky hands. The bright lights had blinded her, but it was a warmth in those eyes, hundreds of strangers moved by her story, that truly overwhelmed her. She had lived most of her life unseen. Now, the world wasn't just seeing her, it was feeling her. Backstage, Ethan waited with a proud smile. "You did it," he said softly. She exhaled, half laughing, half crying. "I didn't think my voice would stop trembling." Ethan handed her a glass of water. It didn't matter. People don't remember perfection. They remember truth. Michael joined them, his eyes glistening. "Your words will reach places money never could. Lily, thank you for everything you've done for my family and for me." Lily smiled shyly. "You don't need to thank me, Mr. Ward." "I do," he said, "because you didn't just save my son, you saved the father he deserved." Her throat tightened. Sometimes gratitude feels heavier than guilt. The three of them stood together under the fading lights, bound not by fate but by the fire that had changed all their lives. In the following months, the foundation grew. More shelters opened. More lives found warmth. Lily became a quiet symbol of compassion, never seeking credit, always pushing others forward. She refused interviews unless they highlighted other volunteers. "I don't want to be the story," she'd say. "I want to tell theirs." Ethan often teased her. "You're terrible at fame. You know that." She grinned. "Good. Fame doesn't feed the hungry." They spent long hours working side by side, editing footage, visiting hospitals, listening to those who'd lost everything. Somewhere between the exhaustion and laughter, something tender bloomed. It wasn't rushed nor labeled. It was simply two hearts learning to heal in the same rhythm. One afternoon, as they walked near the riverbank handing out care kits, Ethan stopped, staring at the water's reflection. "Do you ever think about that night?" he asked. "All the time," Lily admitted, "but not with fear anymore, with gratitude." "For what?" "For being given a reason to believe people can still change." Ethan smiled softly. "I think you changed all of us." The wind carried their silence, gentle and full of peace. Back at the shelter, Lily's father continued his recovery, now sober for nearly a year. He helped repair old buildings, mentored other struggling parents, and never once missed a day of work. Every now and then, he'd glance at Lily from across the hall and whisper under his breath, "Thank you for not giving up on me." She'd smile back. "I almost did. But then I realized forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It frees it." One night, near closing, Grace gathered everyone for a small dinner. It wasn't fancy, just bread, soup, and laughter echoing off worn walls. Michael sat among them, not as a billionaire but as a man humbled by love. "To second chances," he said, raising his cup. "To kindness," Lily added. Ethan smiled. "To fire, the kind that doesn't destroy, but reveals." Everyone laughed softly. Later, as the night quieted, Lily stepped outside. The stars were faint, hidden behind the city's glow, but she didn't mind. She'd once thought hope only lived in skies like these, far, unreachable. But now she knew better. Hope was in every meal shared, every wound forgiven, every story told. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are, for letting me live long enough to see beauty grow from ashes." Behind her, the shelter lights flickered gently, not dying, but dancing. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, "Not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind." One click can be your way of saying, "I felt you." Weeks turned into months, and seasons began to shift. The city that once burned now glimmered with renewal, murals of hope on brick walls, street corners where strangers smiled more easily. The Lily Grant Foundation had opened its fifth shelter, each one carrying the quiet heartbeat of a girl who once had nothing but courage. One crisp autumn evening, Lily walked with Ethan through a park not far from the crash site, the very place where everything had begun. The old scorch marks on the asphalt had faded beneath fallen leaves, but the memory lingered like a ghost in the wind. Hard to believe this is where it happened, Ethan murmured. Lily nodded, her breath visible in the cool air. Sometimes I still hear it, the glass breaking, the fire cracking, my heart racing. He glanced at her gently. If you could go back, would you do it again? She smiled faintly. Every time. They stood in silence, the distant hum of traffic filling the space between them. Then Ethan said, "You know, my father still keeps your photo in his office. Not the one from the gala, the one I took at the shelter, where you were laughing at Grace's terrible jokes." Lily chuckled softly. He said he hated photos. He says he needs that one. It reminds him that money can't build what love can. Lily's eyes glistened, but not from sadness this time. He's changed so much. "So have you," Ethan said. "You used to hide in the background. Now you make others feel seen." She looked at him, her smile warm and full of life. Maybe that's a real rescue, not pulling someone from fire, but helping them see their own light. They continued walking until they reached a small memorial sign nearby, a plaque placed by the city to honor the unknown angel who saved a life that night. Someone had laid fresh flowers at its base. Lily knelt down, touching the engraved letters gently. "I used to hate this title," she whispered. "But maybe it's not about me anymore. Maybe it's for everyone who's ever helped and stayed invisible." Ethan crouched beside her. "You're not invisible now." She smiled softly. "I don't need to be. The story's bigger than me now." The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of gold and ember, the same colors as a fire that had once nearly taken everything, now reborn into light. Later that evening, Michael gathered everyone at the shelter for a small anniversary event. Grace baked too many pies, the children decorated handmade banners, and laughter filled the air. Michael stood before them, his voice trembling with quiet pride. "A year ago, I thought my world ended in a fire. But that fire gave me my life back. It gave me a reason to look beyond myself. It gave me Lily." Lily blushed, hiding behind her hands as everyone clapped. He continued, "There's a saying I keep close now. Flames fade, but kindness remains. Tonight, I see proof of that everywhere I look." Ethan took the MIC next, glancing at Lily before speaking. "She doesn't like when we call her a hero, so I won't. But I'll say this, sometimes the people who've lost the most are the ones who give the most. And if you ever doubt the power of a single act of love, just look at what one girl's courage built around her." The room erupted in applause again, though Lily's eyes filled quietly, humble beyond words. After the event, she stepped outside for some air. The city lights shimmered like constellations on the ground. Her father joined her, his hands tucked in his coat pockets. "You did good, kid," he said, voice low but steady. "So did you," she whispered back. They stood side by side, no longer two broken pieces, just family, mending. As the night deepened, Lily closed her eyes and let the sounds of laughter drift through her. She thought of that burning car, the smoke, the fear, and how it all led here. Not all fires destroy. Some illuminate the path you were always meant to find.